Are you enjoying the nothing ever happens? Well, I'm sorry to say the show's over, because something did in fact happen. It's the eve of America's collapse, and I'm here in a t-shirt and shorts playing Mario Kart. That sounds about right for a Twitch live stream. What do you guys think? You think that's about appropriate? I awakened from my slumber to discuss the fucking collapse of the West or something. And I don't mean it like all those chuds mean it, because the chuds will say the West is collapsing when they see a fucking brown person like walking on the other side of the sidewalk. And like when I say brown, we can be really generous with our interpretation. Fucking, they would see an Italian from New York and think, oh my god, an immigrant, and shit themselves. Like, it doesn't even need to be a real immigrant. They will imagine one under every single rock. But then the actual collapse of the West comes in the form of tariffs. And they're like, haha, yes, fuck me up harder, Trump, Daddy Trump, and Elon or something. First time I opened your stream, my Twitch crashed. Big Twitch, big live stream doesn't want you to see this. Only thing I like about Cyberpunk is the anime that came out of it. I've heard some pretty good things about that, and I love Rebecca from that show. She's great. But I haven't seen it, so. But I did still take some time before stream started to go and look for, I guess I'll just be Mario, to go and look for some news like articles that pertain to the subject of discussion, just so I can remind myself of some of the facts of the matter that we're going to be encountering for the next several years, potentially decades. We were all saying that this was so idiotic of an idea on the left. If you're on the left, you know this. People on the left were all saying that the idea of imposing tariffs, how about the rest of our lifespan? Maybe that's possible too, but I don't want to get too spicy with that prediction. You know, we'll see. A lot of people on the left said that like tariffs would be so moronic, so idiotic, so self-evidently detrimental to literally everybody's interests in the United States, including the capital class, that the Trump admin would never do it. I was one such person. I was not immune from this. I believed this as well. I thought they weren't actually going to do it. They actually just fucking did it. Trump signed the I believe there was a tariff bill or something like that. I don't know if it had to be approved by Congress, but the U.S. has now committed to the implementation of tariffs. Trump signed it on February 1st, and it will go into effect on Tuesday. There is no backing out at this point. Understand this, like, up to and including Tuesday, there was a lot of speculation that Trump could have been, like, could have, like, backed out at the last moment, because until then, theoretically, it was still, like, kind of all talk. But no, now it's now it exists and has the force of law behind it, you know? So yippee, everything everywhere is gonna become more expensive. And that's just what it is. Now the entire stock market is just a pump and dump scheme, even though it already is. Yeah, the stock market, here's the thing, right? The stock market is going to be affected by this, but ultimately, the people who have their wealth like tied up in the stock market and stuff, they don't care. And ultimately, there's another dimension to that too, that they actually thought that this was going to work because they're fucking insane. But like, this affects the real economy, right? There's a difference between the speculative, like the pretend fake stock market economy, and the real economy. And this affects the real economy. A lot of the billionaires, they are wrong in thinking that they will be insulated from this. But among the oligarchs, there was a perception that they would actually be immune from the consequences of this. Legitimately, they thought that, like, we can just destroy the whole world economy and it won't affect us. Or in some cases, they were actually dumb enough to believe that, like, no, this will be good, actually. You know? So now we get the fucking most disastrous, like literally the worst time and place to ever implement a package of economic tariffs. We get tariffs, right? And it's not going to fix anything that, like, any of the legitimate problems that we were experiencing from stuff like NAFTA and whatever. A lot of people don't really understand how tariffs work. And like, I totally understand that, like, it's not a self-evident concept, you know? But it's not good for a country like the United States to be doing tariffs. Find it funny how Republicans say we don't want a global economy, even though it already happened. Yeah, it's largely was a virtue signal until it wasn't, I guess, you know? Instead of busy spraying tariffs everywhere. That's true. That's pretty true. Trump is, in fact, doing that. The function of tariffs is this. For anybody who's, like, not fully cued in on what tariffs do, glad I downloaded the yes, 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 no, no, no meme. I love that meme. Jojo is great. You should watch it. Tariffs do serve a legitimate function. Sometimes. They always entail a degree of economic, well, hardship and, like, bumpiness, basically. I've read some studies on the effects of tariffs in what they call the Four Tigers, which would be South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. These were four countries that in the 20th century implemented tariffs to great success. They're now known to be, like, very economically prosperous within their region. But the reason it worked for them is precisely because they weren't already in that position. In a developing country, in a very backwater country, like these four countries were before they implemented the tariffs, an economic hit from tariffs would not be as bad as if foreign investment came in and effectively trapped your country in a debt trap. Like, picture another slew of third world countries that maybe did not implement strategies like this, implement policies like this for whatever reason, did not have certain disincentives from foreign investment from coming into the country, which in the short to intermediate term can be very bad for an economy, because you want there to be a lot of economic activity. You want the money to be flowing, generally speaking, in a market economy setting, right? Especially in a globalized economy. But if you get Western businesses investing in there, what you're likely to get, even if no previous colonization had happened beforehand, is you're likely to get a neo-colonial relationship out of that, where the businesses gradually start to, like, buy up your country precisely because they have a lot of money and you don't. And so eventually you just get the spot that a lot of third world countries are stuck in today, where a lot of their country's industry and land and whatever and wealth is owned by foreign businesses, and like they just take it and mostly extract it out of the country into, like, offshore bank accounts and shit. You know, obviously some version of this exists in the world where, like, these countries implement tariffs as well because capitalism, but, like, in the Four Tigers, right, when, you know, you do those tariffs as a third world country specifically, then you don't have, you know, the Western businesses and whatever might be a little bit less willing to invest there, which gives you room as like, you know, economic forces in that country, gives you room to build up industry domestically, build up production. While it might not be as good, over time you develop an industrial base which gives you economic leverage and staying power, and will eventually lead to more prosperity for everybody because there is more real economic activity happening both in your country and abroad because you've added industry to the world. Does that make sense? that is the legitimate use case for something like tariffs. I mentioned that this is only useful in a country that isn't already prosperous and on top and doing that investment. The United States is in exactly the position that would benefit the least from the implementation of tariffs. Like, the only thing that tariffs, we're going to get all the downsides of tariffs like magnified up like immensely so, because the United States is trading partners in some capacity with every single country on the planet, not least of which the 3 countries we put tariffs on. And we don't have, like, there aren't any of the trappings of a third world nation where we are under threat from some sort of foreign investment that could turn the country into the debt trap, because we are the foreign investment that turns countries into debt trap. There's none of the positives to be gained from these tariffs, and there are all of the negatives, you know? The United States had nothing to gain from these tariffs and everything to lose. We're just gonna lose, especially when the countries that have been tariffed by us are our closest trading partners and are proposing their own countermeasures of economic protectionism so that they can still function with a greatly reduced trading partnership or relationship with the United States. Essentially, this is going to make everything more expensive for everyone everywhere, because everywhere has ties to the United States, and most of all, it is going to hurt the United States. Life is going to get worse, and that's it. And it didn't even benefit the rich fucking oligarchs that made the decision, because they're morons. Like, you know, they're looking out for their class interests when they see it, but like, they're dumb. They don't always see it. They've surrounded themselves with yes men. They've genuinely deluded themselves to the point that they think they're gods. Like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, fucking Jeff Bezos, they think they're deities that walk the earth. They think they are immune from consequence. And so they're going to continue, they have continued to do more and more and more drastic, like, boneheaded shit that either concentrates wealth upwards or just deletes society entirely, until it is made clear that, like, no, actually, there are absolute consequences that occur as a result of your actions. And here they are, motherfucker. America will just refuse that it's a problem. Yeah. I mean, Trump is going to go out there and try to do the best he can to paper over the damage, but, like, understand the kind of damage that this can cause. In a way, this is exactly what we were, like what the left could hope for in an effort to build class consciousness. This is going to cause so much damage. This is going to make, like, economics everywhere so much worse that it will not be possible to attribute blame to anything other than the capital class here. Like Elon Musk and his rich tech bro friends and the oligarchs and Donald Trump and, like, all those people, the blame will lie squarely with them. And there is no, like, even the most irrational, I bet black people did this, will fucking unavoidably see the connection that, like, oh shit, the moment the tariffs happened, life got worse everywhere for everyone. Maybe it wasn't a good idea, you know? Because it's going to touch people directly in their wallets. They're going to start feeling that in a way that is, like, impossible to just explain away. Also, what's up, T? Stream sniping? Maybe. Donald Trump fooled the country out of, flooded a city out of spite. I don't know if he cares. And he doesn't care. But a lot of people that support him kind of do. You know? When they get hurt, really hurt, they're going to start knocking on the door asking for answers, probably. You know? And if they don't, they might just fucking die. You know? Or languish in poverty. Or whatever. It's not going to be good. What's up, 1v3? UK has kind of done this as well. Everything here is owned by foreign companies. We have barely any industry anymore. Yeah, that's part of the consequence. The UK and America suffer from this. I think America more so. America doesn't have very much production and industry, like, domestically, right? There aren't American businesses. There are businesses that operate in America and that are headquartered in America. But every American business that you could think of is an international business. They just have a presence in America. They have no qualms about just picking up and moving to like wherever else is like more profitable to do business, right? There are other countries that are still in a sort of stage of development that are not a global hegemons that have their own domestic industry. You know? You were supposed to exploit the indebted third world countries, not join them. That's so true. Can you imagine after everything you said and done, they're like, we changed our mind. We want liberalism. I don't want to like, that would be funny, but like, I don't want to, well, that's not true. I was going to say, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble. Liberalism caused this. The systemic failures of the liberal system directly led to this crisis. There is a one-to-one, or like there's an A to B to C direct progression of liberal crisis. Yeah, I got that from reading that. Like, there's a A to B to C, a direct progression that liberalism is a system where wealth can buy you influence. Thus, the more wealth you have, the more influence you have. Thus, the more influence you have, the more you can accrue wealth and influence. Over time, you get people who have virtually an infinite amount of wealth from this process. And as a result, they have an infinite amount of influence. And when they have an infinite amount of influence, that can't possibly be checked. And when they have completely unchecked influence and can do whatever they want, they're going to do something disastrous that results in this. Especially when the accrual of that wealth, it snowballs beyond a point that it can no longer be tied to any sense of merit or like general skill or ability, right? Like, you do not have to be intelligent or anything. In fact, it benefits you to be an inhuman, sociopathic sack of shit to become rich in this country or in any other country. So, with that pre-selection bias, of course you're going to get this. Liberalism caused this. Liberalism created the fascist government that handed the keys to the kingdom to the billionaire class and just let them run amok. Legitimately, I think the only way that you get a resolution to a crisis caused by tariffs brought on by a completely unaccountable owning class is socialism. There has to be some sort of reckoning with the material factors that cause this. You have to eliminate the rot at its source so that it can't produce this again. Is it funny that some liberals are like, late-stage capitalism? They laugh at the idea that it could possibly ever end, but the median voter hates socialism. They don't have to, like, call it socialism, but it, like, a post-capitalist world exists because it must exist because capitalism inevitably destroys itself. It's full of contradictions that eats society alive. You know? Think about, like, what I just described. The billionaire class surrounding themselves with yes men, accruing infinite power and influence to such a point that they create a legitimately, like, society-destroying tariff package at the behest of Donald Trump. And like, as a result, the interests of the class that rules society is going to destroy the entire society, like, along with them. You know? That is what I mean when I say, like, capitalist society destroys itself. It has to. There is no, like, this is the logical end state of all capitalist society. Disastrous, like, stupid shit, like, done by people with no accountability and infinite wealth that just makes life worse everywhere for everyone, you know? The only way that you don't have this is if you don't have that system, if you have a different system with different incentives. Let's call it Y2Kism, so true. Yeah, I'm inventing this new ideology, and as is the case with all the most humble theorists of history, I'm naming it after myself, called Y2Kism, where we organize the economy democratically, where the American worker will take charge, and all the unelected oligarchs will have their wealth taken away from them so they can't all ruin our lives again and again and again for no recourse. You know? You could even call it Americanism. Truly, an ode to you know, American patriots or some shit. I don't know, dude. You get the idea. Please give us Y2Kism. Anyone saying it's just socialism is clearly lying? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we call it Y2Kism because, you know, at the turn of the century, everything just started getting worse. So what if things didn't get worse, actually? What if we made them better? And, you know, that means no more goodies for the corporations sometimes. And, you know, you're not allowed to be a billionaire because that shit is dumb. I don't think I'll be able to pull these up like on my screen and be able to look at them until after this race, but yeah. I do have some articles on both on the tariffs that the United States implemented on Canada and Mexico, as well as the like economic countermeasures that Canada and Mexico took. To give a brief recounting of events, the tariffs have been signed into law, I think. Not super familiar with the proceduralism of it up close, but the tariffs are set to go into effect on Mexican, Canadian, and Chinese goods, and it's going to take effect on Tuesday. They've already been signed. There's no backing out now. And in response, the leaders of Canada and Mexico, our two biggest allies, by the way, two of our closest allies, conferred and talked and had conversations and decided on a retaliatory strategy to basically not impose a set of counter tariffs on American goods, but to also do some other stuff to encourage domestic production and consumption. Basically try to kindle the flames of their own internal economics, so that the tariffs wouldn't hit them as hard, or so they could weather them a little bit better, and basically prepare for a longer economic term where they weren't able to do business with America without like these tariffs being in effect. And then behind the scenes, there's also been some other stuff happening. People might have seen this. Apparently, Elon Musk has been trying to gain access to like the fucking Treasury, like, which is where all the money for everything in the United States doled out at the federal level comes from. Like, they're in charge of saying, okay, this money goes here, this money goes here, this money goes here. Like, they actually hand out the money, you know? Funny how fast Republicans are dealing with their plan, but Democrats take forever. Yeah, because Democrats are abstemious liberals who reflect the decline of the system that they represent. And Republicans are fascists, aka worse liberals, who are active in hastening that decline. Does that make sense? And also the Democrats are like managed opposition, because both Republicans and Democrats answer to the owning class, the billionaire class. And since the Democrats are the leftmost of the two, they nominally want to do good things, but billionaires hate it when you do good things, so they put a lot of pressure on the Democrats to make them never do good things. And the Democrats just roll with it because they answer to the billionaires. Yeah, you got access to the money vault. Needs a nerf, yeah. Yeah, rich America needs to be nerfed. When are we getting the next fucking major update? The last major update was in the fucking 1770s with the genesis of liberalism. We need a new patch. We need a new system patch to America. We need to patch out the fucking billionaire infinite wealth exploit. Ah, yes, Reuters. Trump says Americans could feel pain in trade war with Mexico, Canada, and China. Okay. Trump said on Sunday the sweeping tariffs that he's imposed on Mexico, Canada, and China are three biggest trading partners, by the way. Yeah, what the fuck? What are we paying the devs for? Come on, update your game, dude. The sweeping tariffs may cause, quote, some pain for Americans. So then it wasn't going to make industry bigly and strongly and betterly. Okay. His plan was just suffer, I guess. As Wall Street and the largest U.S. trading partners signaled hope that the trade war would not last long. I think the longer this goes on and the more destructive it is for the United States, the better. Because if Trump backs out, he gets the reputation, he does get the reputation as a, like, really, really weak president and like, all that sort of stuff, a weak political figure. But I genuinely don't think the news media would capitalize on it at all to do any sort of messaging or narrative crafting, specifically because the media is all bought and paid for by the same class that Trump is bought and paid for and is a part of, and the same class that owns both the Democratic and Republican parties, and so on and so on and so on. You know what I mean? Like, this needs to hit hard enough that every American knows exactly who fucking stabbed them in the stomach. Third, not bad. Trump began his second term on January 20th. Thank you, Reuters. Nobody knew this. Defended the tariffs that he announced on Saturday. Canada and Mexico said they were working together to face the 25% U.S. duties on imports. 25%! You guys have any idea how hard that's going to reverberate down the line? That's not just 25% more expensive. That's 25% plus whatever percentage each middleman at each stage of the process puts on top. And in an economy as complex as the United States economy and the world economy, with as many middlemen as we have, we could be looking at, like, an order of magnitude, potentially more than 25% price increases on stuff. You know, at the very least, I would say something like 40 to 50% is going to be a pretty typical price increase on any given thing that's subject to duties and tariffs in an economy as large and complex as the US. You know, this is gonna fucking hurt. Which promised to jolt the integrated economies of the 3 North American countries that have had free trade agreements for decades. Yeah, I mean, jolt, getting stabbed multiple times, what's really the difference? They're really underselling this, I think. Some people are like, yeah, everything's fine. Trump's going to make a great economy. We have about, like, 2 days for that illusion to keep up. Like, 1.5, actually. The rest of today and tomorrow. Again, this is one of those things where it is legitimately like, it's legitimately like you went and stuck your hand in the fucking poisonous spider box. You know? You have to, like, realize, oh shit, I'm getting bitten by a million poisonous spiders, and pull your hand out of there. You know? Because otherwise you just don't have a hand anymore, basically. You know? But it does, like, ultimately, you don't even get, like, there's not even anything salvageable if you don't feel the pain of a million spiders biting you. I apologize to anybody who's arachnophobic in the audience, but that is the first thing, like, I tried to just come up with something that sounded really unpleasant. Because that's about how unpleasant this is going to be, probably. The apology video? Dude, can you imagine the Donald Trump, like, YouTube gamer apology? That would be amazing. How funny would that be if the backlash were actually so large that, like, Trump has to issue a gamer apology for his actions? Holy shit, that would be funny. It might not be the best timeline because there's the potential for him to, like, evade accountability or whatever, like, again. But the Donald Trump gamer apology would go crazy, I think. No, I've made a lot of bad decisions on that turn. I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. Yeah, so who was that? Who was that said the severe and continuous lapse in judgment? Was that Logan Paul? So entertaining to watch all Americans suffer from Trump until I realized we got even more narcissistic goofballs at power over here. Yeah, Logan Paul, okay. It's not just going to be Americans. That's the thing. The interconnectedness of the American economy is going to make it so that, like, okay, yeah, after that thing in Japan in the suicide forest or whatever. The Netherlands is going to be affected by this. The EU is going to be affected by this. Everybody is going to be affected by this. Even if tariffs were only put on China, Mexico, and Canada, The US does a lot of business with all three of those countries, and there is so much shit that is made in China. Like, this isn't just going to be limited to America and those countries. This is going to have impact for anybody that has an interaction with any of those countries at any point in the process. Like, there's such a big, complicated web that, like, you tugging down really hard on one part of it. Like, imagine there's a net. You've picked 3 of the strongest links and tugged on them as hard as you can to pull it down. That's going to affect every point in that net. Yeah, basically everything on the planet. Yeah, it's just, yeah, you know what? Yeah, like a spider web. You know, there's a spider web in the box, and you just fucking tugged on the spider web in the box, and now, like, the web is getting dragged down. It's almost broken. All the spiders are mad at you, and they're all gonna start biting you. You motherfucker, you deserve to get your hand bitten, and you deserve for it to hurt, right? Like, that's the only way that you're not gonna just die to a bunch of poisonous spiders who were pissed at you, like, coming into their spider web and messing up all their shit. Anyways, look, I'm here. I know I'm here to talk about politics and stuff, and obviously the politics the philosophy that I've just talked about is political in nature. You know, because, like, we mentioned Hegel, and that guy was one of the ideological forefathers of the Nazis. But what I really wanted to talk about was the tariffs. Because that shit is going to be, like, welcome to the rest of your life, basically. Are you enjoying the nothing ever happens? Well, I'm sorry to say the show's over, because something did, in fact, happen. You know, the nothing ever happens bros are in shambles. Don't you know everything leads to the pipeline of communism or fascism? It is kind of crazy how those are, like, the only 2 real ideologies right now. Like, liberalism is a dead ideology, or at very least a ideology in the throes of death as we speak. Like, fascism is saying, like, let's light everything on fire even harder and make life even worse because we hate brown people or something. And communism is, hey, you remember those, like, liberal philosophers that argued for freedom and liberty and democracy and the rights of man? That's pretty cool, I think. We should address some of the flaws of the systems that they created so that we can actually better realize that, instead of, like, giving infinite wealth to the dumbest fucks on the planet for them to tell everyone that brown people are bad and then fuck a country raw for 10 years or more. And, you know, safe to say, from the way I've described these ideologies, I do have a preference, you know, and it's not for the one that says brown people are bad, and that, you know, infinite wealth should be given to one guy. Crazy take, I know, coming from me, the guy with socialist aesthetics and colors all over his channel. What am I looking at here? Model gauging the impact of Trump's tariff plan from EY. I don't know what EY is, but an economist to analyze this suggests it would reduce economic growth by 1.5 percentage points this year? Holy shit, that's bad. Throw Canada and Mexico into recession and usher in stagflation. High inflation, stagnant economic growth, and elevated unemployment at home. This is like the fucking oil crisis on steroids, dude. I know 1.5 percentage points doesn't sound like much, but understand the kind of implications we're talking about here, right? First of all, growth rates in most healthy economies are pretty, at least they sound like they're pretty low. Anywhere from 1 to 3 percentage points, per year is considered in the modern neoliberal economy a healthy rate of growth. A contraction in the economy is really bad. Line going up, the economic growth of a country is not always indicative of good stuff, but economic contraction is always indicative of bad stuff, you know? And because this guy's an economist, right? First of all, there are 2 biases that play into him potentially lowballing how bad this number could be, right? a chief economist that is able to get into talk to an increasingly captured news circuit is likely to be right-wing and therefore conservative, and be more like willing to massage some of the data and sort of have some sort of biases that would lead them to say, okay, so this will probably be okay, you know, or be like more charitable towards Republican policymaking. That is a factor, but I think a bigger factor is fundamentally that this guy, being an economist, is a social scientist. He deals in the social sciences, and there is no group of people the government takes less seriously than social scientists, you know, in their policy recommendations. Even though social scientists every time have said the same fucking thing about the same fucking issues and been right every time, government still doesn't listen to them. So, you know, one of the ways that they try to get the government to listen sometimes is they'll play down the alarming aspects of their language, of their predictions. They'll try to make things sound less bad than they are, try to make themselves sound as measured and moderate as possible so as to not immediately polarize governments against them. That 1.5 percentage points could be a reflection of those biases. And thus, we could be, in reality, that number could be considerably higher than a 1.5 percentage point, like, decrease of the rate of growth or whatever. So the fact that they even felt comfortable with those biases predicting as much of a decrease in growth of 1.5 percentage points is fucking huge. When you don't get growth, you get exactly what they described. You get stagflation, economic stagnation, massive inflation. Nobody has an incentive to like engage with the economy because nobody can, you know? All of the worst economic crashes in history exhibited the markers of what these this economist is describing. You know? Trump made so Dr. King Day is not recognized anymore. Yeah, I did see that. Republicans hate sharing is caring because if they believed it, they wouldn't like rich people. True, sharing is communism, but like unironically, and that's why Republicans hate it. It's going to happen in the future where people are going to go to their insurance and they're going to file for bankruptcy immediately when disaster breaks. Yeah, we've already seen that happening in various instances. Part of the reason that, like, one of the things that has heralded, like, some of the decline of capitalism is the revelation just how fucking predatory insurance companies have been and how vulnerable and economically naked most people are. Like, think about how insurers have been fucking pulling out of the whole state of Florida. Florida, one of the biggest and, like, until recently, fastest growing, most economically, like, prosperous states in the whole country. And insurers, all of them were like, nah, we got to get out of here because we don't want to insure people. And all of the fucking climate disasters and shit are going to make it so that we actually have to pay out on some of these policies. So they just noped out of there. Same thing in LA. What did the insurance companies do? They tried to, like, cancel people's fire coverage as the fires were happening. And the government in LA, not just in LA, in California, had to send out, like, laws. They had to make laws so that it was like, no, if somebody lost some shit because of the fire, you have to pay out to them. They had to make a law for that because they knew that the insurance companies weren't going to pay up. You know? Insurance companies love nothing more than to just take people's money and run. And whenever economic disaster hits, they're part of that bubble. People are going to realize, oh shit, I don't actually have access to any of that money I've been paying in because the insurance are just going to take it and, like, hang me out to dry, you know? And that causes panic, and that means the bubble's going to pop, economy collapses in conjunction with all the other bubbles popping and stuff, you know? We've seen this before. Would you say we ever really recovered from the 2008 recession? In a material sense, probably not. Like, I'm going to be honest. In the economic growth statistics and productivity and whatever, the United States did recover much quicker than any other country. But the increasing presence of pump and dumps and crypto scams and whatever, as well as the increasing rents that are going up and up and up, well beyond people's ability to actually pay for it, and you know, the wages clearly not matching that, and the wealth disparity only growing larger, I think makes it clear that in real economic terms, the United States did not recover from 2008. In fact, a lot of that recovery, you know, was just, you know, fake pretend bullshit. Like, we were able to pretend very convincingly to the world that we recovered from the 2008 financial crisis because there was a lot of speculative investment that basically made up the difference after the fact. Does that make sense? But yeah, now we've got tariffs. Yeah, that guy fucking died or something. Now we have a sweeping tariff package that's going to literally hurt everybody for no fucking reason. You know? And even the most moderate predictions from economists are like fucking disastrous. If you don't stop, you're getting deepfaked. Underrated threat. With only 2 days before implementation, the tariffs look likely to take effect, though last-minute compromise cannot be completely ruled out. Goldman Sachs economists said in a note on Sunday. Probably copium, but like not an unreasonable degree of copium. Like last-minute compromise, maybe. Otherwise, we get fucked. I haven't gotten dry ruins yet. He added that since the White House has set very general conditions for the removal, the levies are likely to be temporary, but the outlook is unclear. Then that Reuters article didn't have much beyond that. It was like, yeah, the tariffs are going to be fucking bad. And, you know, we interviewed some economists, and they were like, all of them were like, please God, don't let this happen. It would be so fucking bad. Please don't let it happen. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then Reuters was like, so like, maybe it won't happen because it would be really, really bad if it happened. But, I don't know. So, you know, that's what's what on that. That was a really sketchy standoff, but I made it work. Really scared about my future at this rate. Stock up on your rice and beans if you're worried about that stuff. If you want to be prepared for this, make sure you know what your cheap food options are. You know? Nice, I got the thing. Any news media saying this might be a little bad should be charged for treason. Yeah, like, legitimately, the downplay. You know how fucking... like, everybody who plays fighting games will downplay their character, or especially people who play the top tiers will like, downplay how good the top tier character is. That's like these news outlets with tariffs and how bad the tariffs will be. Is it like their job is to just be fucking tariff down players? You know, when anything is done by Trump or the class of like billionaires and business tycoons that support Trump, their job is to downplay anything bad that could happen as a result. Or in the case of the tariffs, for a day they just like didn't report on it entirely. Yeah, everybody loses with these tariffs. And the news media is like, I don't know, maybe it'll be fine. Who knows if he meant it? Although, like, I think that's mostly coming from the economists that really, really want it to, like, not go through because they understand the disastrous consequences that it could have. As much as other people in the social sciences, including myself, love to rag on economists for being, like, the most insular and elitist of the bunch or whatever, social scientists, they still are, and they are ultimately, you know, they're in the same boat. You know? Still Republican voters this month are like, yes, yes, yes. They'll see the egg prices and be like confused or something. And then that's the moment where it's like, that's because you spent all of your time focusing on brown people, you fucking moron, you absolute buffoon. You didn't pay attention to the guy jangling keys in front of you while he plundered the goddamn Treasury Department. Yeah, egg prices went up 2%, and they're like, well, time to be Hitler. Good heavens, would you look at the time and it's just Hitler? Okay. Now let's look at the retaliatory tariffs. Summary. Thank you, Reuters. Very cool. Canada puts 25% tariffs on $155 billion Canadian. So it's probably like, I don't know how much Americans, probably like 120-ish billion dollars of American goods. It is a lot. Because Canada is ultimately a lot smaller of an economy than America is. Sad that the economy can die any day now. Look, we knew this was going to happen. This is what right-wing parties do when they don't just collapse the government, you know? This is why it is imperative that nothing ever happens. This is why, like, you want to be the best-case scenario like the Netherlands. You want the fascists to just fucking, like, they get elected, they're so incompetent, they do absolutely nothing, and then every time they try to do something, they all disagree and the government collapses, and then there's another election. You know? You want that. So that everybody's like, oh, well, the fascists can't do fucking anything, you know? And they still look like massive losers. Gonna take a little money out of my bank today. Not a bad idea. Especially because I believe there was an executive order or something where Trump is going to get rid of the fucking Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. For those not familiar, if you have money in the bank, up to $250,000 is 100% guaranteed insured by the federal government. As long as the FDIC exists, there is no way in hell that you are losing that money, right? This was created after the Great Depression because everybody went to the bank to get their money when the stock market crashed. But then the banks were like, dog, we spent that money. It's not yours anymore. And then general outrage ensued, and one of the worst economic crashes that has ever happened in history followed. If the FDIC were gone, that would just happen again. So yeah, better to do that now while it's still guaranteed that your money is there for you to take out. Ben destroys the left, parentheses, by killing everybody. That's so true. Trudeau says 30 billion will take effect on Tuesday. Duties on the remaining 125 billion in 21 days. PM vows to work with provinces on non-tariff measures. So that's right. Canada didn't just do tariffs on the United States. They also said, like, okay, we're going to try to encourage domestic trade and industry within Canada so that we can partially, like, split the difference there, you know? What about Mexico? Oh, this article is just about Canada. Exports to the U.S. accounts for roughly 17.8% of Canadian gross domestic product. That's a lot. I was wondering, we saw the article about the Canadian, like, countermeasures and stuff, and they were like, yeah, we're going to do also a 25% tariff, but in addition to that, we're, like, encouraging domestic production and industry and stuff. I wonder if Mexico did something similar. I know Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is based as fuck and has been focusing on, like, environmental sustainability projects and affordable housing in Mexico. Two things that would make me cream myself if they were done in the United States. Because, you know, people's lives would get better, and I think that's pretty based, actually. But I don't know if Mexico also did some countermeasures that aren't tariffs, like if they're trying to double up on the amount of domestic projects they're also doing, or if it's just the 25%. Trump's the dumbest person to ever exist. His followers will begin saying it's patriotic to pay higher prices. It's possible. It's entirely possible. We were talking about that earlier. That people will be like, it's good that prices are higher, actually. Or they'll do the thing where it's like, eggs are $2 more expensive. Good heavens, would you look at the time? I must become Hitler. It is imperative. You know? But it's also very possible that, like, the unavoidable impact of these tariffs, like, will hit people hard enough that even if they're really, really pro-Trump, they get super frustrated. And they, like, that becomes something that the right wing and the media apparatus can't easily deflect, right? Like, a lot of the anti-immigrant sentiment is artificially generated as a way to get the working class to fight amongst itself. A lot of the most fervent anti-immigrant people are themselves working class. And the billionaires are like, yes, now that they're all fighting each other, we can just hire immigrant workers, pay them absolutely shit wages, and they're not going to unionize. And like, you know, because they're fighting each other, like, we win no matter what, you know? Think right-wing media is too aligned for it to matter? Maybe. What I was saying is that, like, even though obviously a lot of the media is sort of like bought and paid for in that respect, it's possible that this hurts, the tariffs hurt in a way that is so direct and unavoidable and unattributable to anything other than Trump and his oligarch buddies, that like, they start getting frustrated towards Trump and his buddies. And that represents an opportunity to be like, yes, okay, finally, we can talk about how bad they've been fucking you and all the rest of us this entire time, you know? And then maybe something real starts happening. But either way, anything that does happen is going to probably take a long time, so it's going to hurt for a while. Not as optimistic, but I really hope that's the case. I think it's more likely they find a way to blame it on immigration and DEI. That's also possible. You know, and people who know me know, you know, my track record for predictions has been mixed. You know, and I don't always feel comfortable predicting stuff unless I feel like the outcome based on like the circumstances at play leads so obviously to like one thing specifically that's like, okay, yeah, obviously this means this, you know. But because of how much dust is being kicked up by the tariffs and how much economic turmoil and instability is going to be generated, genuinely, it is hard for me to say what is going to happen. Because that's kind of what economic turmoil and instability means. It means it's like, you know, times are very uncertain. But, you know, the reactionary, the right wing do be right winging. They do be blaming shit on immigrants and black people. I mean, literally, like, there were 2 plane crashes in the past week. You know, like the fucking, the one at D.C. Reagan National Airport. And then one in Philly. And then both times 3, actually? Oh, shit, another plane, Mr. President. Another plane has fucking fallen out of the sky and killed everyone. And like each time the right wingers were all like, they went on social media and they're like, yeah, this is because of black people and DEI and shit. There's a helicopter in the Philippines that crashed yesterday. Okay, well, we're counting American plane crashes here. Specifically because of all the deregulation and shit that's been happening in the aviation industry. Yeah, he literally, like, after he gutted the Aviation Safety Advisory Committee, like, bro literally said, I will delete aviation safety, press the delete aviation safety button, and then immediately the consequences of deleting aviation safety were felt in the form of 2 consecutive plane crashes. He also signed an executive order to blame it on DEI. I do remember that, too. Truly one of the presidents of all time. Here, Mexico counter tariffs? I wonder if I can find details on that. Mexico, okay. Independent is talking about Mexico and Canada hit back. I wonder if they'll say anything about Mexico particularly. The please. Mexico and Canada both announced retaliatory tariffs. Scheinbaum said she was doing Plan B, which includes tariff and non-tariff measures in defense of Mexico's interests. Okay, so there is some non-tariff stuff. We do not want confrontation, we want collaboration. She, according to the Mexican president, and I have no reason to disbelieve that. Economic confrontation is usually not good. It doesn't say that much about what else Mexico is doing to address the effects, or to react to the effects of American tariffs. I don't know if they've I don't know if information about that is like public or something. Even Pierre Poilievre has spoken out against the tariffs. Yeah, that's true. I did see that, like, even the Canadian conservatives, which were, like, known for being MAGA light, like, they're known for being very similar to the MAGA movement. Even they're not happy with these tariffs because they're actual, like, Canadian nationalists, right? Like, they're like, yes, I love Canada. I love all Canadian things. And that predictably includes a prosperous Canadian economy and Canadian economic interests and stuff. So, like, when America's like, nah, fuck Canada in particular, they're mad. You know? A lot of the nationalistic sentiment among both the right, like, among the foot soldiers of the right wing and among the ruling class on the right is, like, very manufactured. It's not as real as other countries' nationalism, you know? So, like, that nationalism in America a lot of times is just a mask, and it can be a mask in other countries as well, but it basically only functions as a mask to, like, enable the billionaire class and whatever, you know? Whereas, like, the nationalism in Canada and other countries is real enough that people will genuinely get mad at you. They'll actually get mad at you if you make fun of their country, you know? Like, I've had this interaction with various people both in chat and outside of chat several times, you know, to this effect. Nobody cares when you dunk on America, but when you dunk on their country, it gets personal. You know? Apparently Mexico is coordinating with Canada in response to the tariffs. Yeah, that's right. I saw that as this news was breaking. Cause like fucking Mexico and Canada are still trading partners with each other. It just, the United States just decided to say, fuck you in particular. To Canada, Mexico, and China are three of our biggest trade partners. And the US was just like, I have a great idea. What if we completely alienate them? So the USA Today is also including the quote from Claudia Sheinbaum that, oh yeah, Mexico is going to do tariffs and, like, non-tariff stuff to counter these tariffs, but they haven't included what those are, which makes me think that maybe the American news outlets don't have them, or, like, I don't know, too lazy to report them or something. I don't know. People will hear it on the news when the banks deny people to get their money back. That's true. That's like one of those ways that people would be unavoidably hurt. Like, if they get rid of the FDIC. Before I go, I really do want to try and find the Mexican, like, countermeasures that they're doing. Mexico tariffs, countermeasures. Al Jazeera, maybe? I don't know. Al Jazeera does good stuff. Let's search for Mexico. Huh? Let's see. File at the WTO. Oh, Canada's actually going to submit a legal challenge against these tariffs, which will be interesting. Violation of trade commitments that the U.S. has taken. I don't know if that's going to hold up, but it is good that they're, like, not taking any of this lying down. Yeah. Yeah, do it. It's time. Immediately ordered retaliatory tariffs. Oh, let's see. Trump also did tariffs in his first term. Some may remember that, some may not. They were disastrous then, too. We will win. How? Okay, here we go. How will Mexico respond? Preparing possible tariffs on imports. And, what is this? What? That just says counter tariffs. Okay, whatever. And before they dig up some treaty from, like, the 1850s that busts the tariffs wide open. Well, they probably won't have to go as far as the 1850s. There are much more recent trade agreements between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. Canada, U.S., Mexico, the CUM alliance, if you will. They wouldn't have to go back that far. I really want to find... Oh, yeah, okay, here we go. Mexico's official response to U.S. tariffs muted so far. Canada, okay, so Canada has been more vocal so far. So it seems like Mexico is actually playing what they're doing kind of close to the chest. It makes sense if I couldn't find anything on what else they were doing aside from those tariffs. I guess if anything, what they would be doing would just be kind of like a continuation of their own current economic projects, right? Like, it might be that the only new thing here is the tariffs, because Mexico may have been trying to develop itself internally for a while now. Like, in both in AMLO's presidency and now that Claudia Sheinbaum is the president, they've been focusing a lot on ecological development, on affordable housing development, on fighting the cartels and stuff. So it's possible they've announced these other programs previously, and they're just going to keep rolling with those into their counter tariffs. I don't know. It's also possible that they do have something new planned and they haven't revealed it yet. But I can't really speak to that.
Thanks for watching, and support the channel if you would be so kind.